Hey guys, this will be a quick video explaining a very common question that beginners have. Beginners often ask, am I meant to shoot using a bent arm or a straight arm? And the question comes in different forms. Often you might hear people talking about locking their elbows, and you will get conflicting advice depending on who you hear it from and even who trains you. This does tend to be a regional difference. Some coaches do prefer the bent arm method. Some areas and some coaches prefer the straight arm method. Now, there is no clear right and wrong, but there are reasons why people do each one. Now, as a sports style target shooter, we are taught to keep our arms straight. Now, when you keep your arms straight, what you have is bone-on-bone alignment. The bones in your wrist are lined up with your elbow, are lined up with your shoulder, and then through your back. That gives you maximum power and the most stability, because your bones are much stronger and better at handling the load than your muscles. So for us, a correct draw will look like this. Our arms are straight, we pull back, and everything is nice and well aligned. That's what it should be. It gives us the most control on our shot, and it does allow us to control the weight of the bow a lot better. If you look at many of the pro shooters, they will shoot with generally straight arms. Here's an example of Rick McKinney on his front cover of the book, The Simple Art of Winning. You can see he does shoot with a very straight arm. Keith Lee, who writes the book Total Archery, who does have a slightly different coaching style. Most of his archers also use straight arms. And to varying extents too. So some of the archers do have slightly crooked arms. But the most important thing is not whether or not you're supposed to keep your arms straight, but whether or not you have the correct biomechanical alignment that makes the most use of your bone structure. The important thing to note is everybody has different elbows. This varies with genders, this varies with races, ethnic backgrounds, and this varies between individuals. So while one person might shoot very comfortably with a perfectly straight arm, others can't maintain the same alignment. The key point to remember in elbow rotation is that for a right-handed shooter, the elbow should rotate in a clockwise direction. So as a right-handed shooter, you'll see if my elbow, this is what most people start doing. It's a nice flat, the inside of the elbow is basically pointing upwards. You actually don't want this. What you want to do is turn your elbow clockwise so that you have this side of the elbow pointing up and the inside's pointing to the side. You don't have to go all the way around, but doing this correctly will clear the path of the string and you won't hit yourself, and you will have maximum bone structure engagement. A common mistake that people will do and will misunderstand is trying to rotate the shoulder as well. You can't rotate the elbow without rotating your shoulder. That's a bit of a big difference. It does take some practice to do. One of the things you can do is to place your arm against the wall and just practice rotating your elbow while keeping the shoulder still. It is something which isn't very natural. You do have to practice this. But most people who are trained as target archers at least, will shoot with a straight arm. Now some people will shoot with a bent arm, and that's actually fine. Again, this varies with your muscle and your bone structure, and especially if you're shooting compound, you might find that you have to bend your arm slightly to get the right draw length. So seeing someone who is bending their arm is not a form fault necessarily. This is completely fine. Now, given that there is a generally correct and biomechanical way, and there are some variations, I do often hear a bit of advice which is often given that doesn't have any real basis. Often, you see a lot of beginners or intermediates who have been taught or have learned to keep their arm bent. And whenever they see someone shoot with a straight arm, they keep telling them you should bend your arm. This isn't necessarily good advice, especially if these people they've been trained to do it properly and they're shooting quite well. You don't need to bend your arm. Again, the point of keeping the arm straight is to make maximum use of your bone structure. By bending your arm, Some people will have to bend their arm to get that bone structure alignment, and that's fine. But if you start bending your arm to the point where you're feeling it in your muscles and your ligaments, that's when you're doing it inefficiently. You will find that it's much harder to hold the same load because now your arm muscles are taking the load rather than your bones. Additionally, because of the extra strain, you will find yourself being more fatigued sooner. A common misconception is that you have to bend your arm to avoid being hit by the string. You don't have to do this. Often this is an overreaction to being hit. You might hit yourself once with the string and go, oh no, my arm's been sticking out, so I've got to bend my arm now. This is, like I said, an overreaction. You don't have to bend your arm to avoid the string. Yes, this will avoid being hit, but this will also cause more fatigue and more muscle tension than you actually need. You only need to bend your arm if it's something you find more comfortable, because to get the correct alignment you need to bend your arm. That's different. Don't bend your arm just to avoid the string slap. You don't need to. If you shoot with a straight arm, you can rotate your elbow and you will clear the string. It's not going to hit you. If it is hitting you, there might be other reasons, which I've covered in a different video. It might be the brace height's too short. It might be the way you're gripping the bow. So this doesn't mean you'll get hit. So if you see someone who's shooting with a straight arm, don't tell them bend your arm. They don't need to. They're doing the right thing. Another confusion that comes with shooting with a straight arm is the notion of locking your elbow. A lot of people think by shooting straight arm, your elbow is locked. Now, generally speaking, you don't have to lock your elbow. By locking, I mean it's rigid. This doesn't have to be rigid. If anything, you shouldn't be having the stress on your elbow. If you're feeling the stress there, then you are way too tense and you need to lighten up. So, unlock your elbow, you can keep it straight, but you don't have to lock it in place. See, so here I'm drawing with a straight arm. I'm not locked in place. If I'm locked, it'll look more like that's locking. You see the tension in the arm? I'm in tension keeping it straight. That's going to cause a lot of elbow strain. It might even cause injury. So you don't lock your elbow, just keep it straight. The other thing to consider are people who are double jointed and hyperextend their elbows. Now, I can't do that because my elbow isn't structured that way. But a lot of people who lock their elbows will in fact bend inwards, and that will definitely cause string slaps. So because people tend to hear about double jointedness and hyperextensions, they often associate a straight arm with a locked elbow and hyperextension. Hyperextension will cause you to get hit. It will cause you to have the wrong alignment. So if you do tend to lock your elbows and hyperextend your elbow, then you may choose to shoot with a slightly crooked arm. And again, that is fine. A lot of people shoot just fine with a bent arm, with a slightly bent arm. A lot of people shoot fine with a straight arm. There's no better method. What's most important is you are using your bone structure efficiently. You can still shoot inefficiently, that's completely fine. But if you're a performance shooter, you're doing competitions, you have to understand how your body works. And you have to choose a method or be trained in a method that best suits your body's structure. So do you shoot with a straight arm or a bent arm? The answer is you can really do both. Most trained archers will use a straight arm, although most will have some kind of bend in their arm anyway. It's a natural thing. You don't bend your arm to avoid getting hit. That is the wrong reason to do so. You only bend your arm if you need to do so to suit your body strengths. Anyway, this is NUSensei. Hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.